Wonderful day, wonderful day, wonderful day. This is your neighborhood sensei Fouché, and I am strongly imploring for all of you in this time of spiritual warfare. There is a spiritual warfare going on against you. So in the time of this spiritual warfare, I strongly implore you to stay woke. Because the opposite of woke is sleep, dormant, doofus. So I'm imploring you to stay woke. But in the process, don't get all stressed out. Be prepared. Use meditation always when necessary. And like I said, be prepared to take those notes. Be prepared to take those notes. Oh, let's shout out a couple of sponsors. Shout out to Opus Clips. Opus Clips, what is it? It's an application that will assist through AI assistance into chopping up your videos, especially for long videos, to itemize through the whole entire half hour, 40, 50, 2 hours, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you're creating a 30-second short or just a quick video. So for anyone that has extended video that they want to chop down, Opus Clips, check it out. They give you a certain amount of introductory credits, to use and go through a trial, and when you subscribe, you're able to personalize it a lot more as far as your lettering and, different things in the aspect of, enhancing your clip experience. So Opus Clips. Our second shout out is going to go to JF Winter and Nasty Noise Music Productions as our next sponsor of mention. NNMP is the acronym. I should have the connected link somewhere, maybe in the description or definitely on the channel. You'll see how to connect to NNMP. All of the composed orchestration that's played in the background on this platform is all compliments of the composer JF Winter and Nasty Noise Music Productions. Again, NNMP is the acronym. So again, welcome to all you wonderful people that decided to check us out. You know what I'm saying? I guess to start, because I don't want to get overly focused into this introduction, as excited as I am to be back to record another episode dealing with a relatable topic. So let me do some reading first. Was your parent difficult, immature, or emotionally unavailable? If you grew up within an emotionally immature, unavailable, or selfish parent, you may have lingering feelings of anger, loneliness, betrayal, or abandonment. You may recall your childhood as a time when your emotional needs were not met, when your feelings were dismissed, or when you took on adult levels of responsibility in an effort to compensate for your parents' behavior. These wounds can be healed, and you can move forward in your life. In this breakthrough book, clinical psychologist Lindsay Gibson exposes the destructive nature of parents who are emotionally immature or unavailable. You will see how these parents create a sense of neglect and discover ways to heal from the pain and confusion caused by your childhood. By freeing yourself from your parents' emotional immaturity, you can recover your true nature, control how you react to them, and avoid disappointment. Finally, you'll learn how to create positive, new relationships so you can build a better life. And the name of the book is called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents: How to Heal from Distant, Rejecting, or Self-Involved Parents. And this is for all of you that are watching this more than just listening. I am showing the cover to the novel. And for me, this book goes beyond parents, because parents are just a form of human beings or human nature. And this book more reads to me the immaturity of people, because these children and their immaturity are going to cycle into a different version of their parents parenting others, which cycles into this never ending immaturity that continues to be practiced and passed down generation to generation. You know what I'm saying? Our psychology stays primitive and very selfish and very limited. And, if we don't recognize that, we just wind up in these circles. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I study so much history into different empires and different time periods, from the Roman Empire to the Dark Ages, the barbarians, the Vikings. I mean, you name it. You know what I'm saying? Nazism in Germany. I mean, I go all the way to the present, and this is just a never-ending cycle of a high percentage of immaturity within society. You know what I'm saying? And as mature as I study and attain to be, I'm human. You know what I'm saying? And there's still that selfish immaturity that we're going to be forever connected to, just in the aspect of being human. I mean, you could be the most astute, focused Buddhist monk or priest, and there's always those moments where you feel that emotion of uncontrolled. We all go through it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to pretend and talk like I'm perfect, because it happens every single day. it probably happens to me at least like, 5, 6 times a day where I really just have to breathe. But I'm more trained in being aware of my feelings, and not complying to that evil in me. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to be in a state of joy, even though I understand and feel frustration just off of impulsive reaction. You know what I'm saying? But you have to be instinctively aware or immediately. And when you're immediately aware, then you could start to go through the process of disconnection a whole lot faster. But us as people are highly immature. So let me start to get into some reading because I don't want to get too far into a monologue. But when we go into the introduction, we'll ad lib some things in because, like I said, it's human nature. And, for all of us adults that still carry the resentment as well as some of the patterns that our parents gave to us through their lack of understanding and being overseen by other oppressed and emotionally damaged and immature adults in prior times and generations in our existence. You know what I'm saying? This is, like I was saying before, just a never ending cycle. And in the age of information now, we can start to break these patterns. So check this out. Emotional neglect in childhood leads to a painful emotional loneliness that can have a long-term negative impact on a person's choices regarding relationships and intimate partners. I mean, I could get personal because in the beginning stages of my early adulthood, more than my childhood, because you got that puppy love thing, like going into these relationships and intimate partnerships with a lack of understanding and maturity, it becomes dangerous. And I understand this with I mean, think about it. This country has a high level of divorce and multiple marriages. You know what I'm saying? And then you have children within these households or connected to these livelihoods. You know what I'm saying? So the damage is extended, when it comes to these experiences and these choices of these parents and these adults. This book describes how emotionally immature parents negatively affect their children, especially children who are emotionally sensitive. Ooh, excuse me. And shows you how to heal yourself from the pain and confusion that come from having a parent who refuses emotional intimacy. And again, a lot of that is because, this is a cultural thing. This is a societal thing to where society creates the tone to how you treat others because of the emotional anxiety, the heightened anxiety that we have as a people in society cause for us to pass on, and that wasn't what I was specifically looking for, but to pass on these very sensitive again, these sensitive feelings, emotions. Emotionally immature parents fear genuine emotion and pull back from emotional closeness. They use coping mechanisms that resist reality rather than dealing with it. They don't welcome self reflection, so they rarely accept blame or apologize. Like, I'm the parent and I'm right. You know, can't admit that you're wrong. Um, can't admit that, there are things that happened prior to this moment that are clouding your rational being to understanding how you're relating your feelings, you're correlating a prior feeling into this moment, and now you're making this moment connected to something else that happened that had nothing specifically to do with this, but you're still so caught up into what happened before that this um other moment that's created becomes a part of the residual damage of a prior created moment because you're emotionally unstable. Their immaturity makes them inconsistent and emotionally unreliable, and they're blind to their children's needs once their own agenda comes into play. So once they're satisfied, let's say, they had a hard day and you wanted to speak to your parent and they, brushed you off. They yelled at you and, then they got into trying to relax. So then they wound up, having a smoke and having some beer or alcohol, liquor. And then, at that point, it's all about, the addiction, the soothing addiction, a so-called soothing addiction. And then you just become, kind of pushed away and just minimized or just kind of dissolved, you know what I'm saying, into almost, feeling invisible. When parents are emotionally immature, their children's emotional needs will almost always lose out to the parents' own survival instincts. I know I was just mentioning that. Again, when parents are emotionally immature, their children's emotional needs will almost always lose out to the parents' own survival instincts. Think of how many fairy tales feature abandoned children who must find aid from animals. Now, I heard the term support pet not too long ago, you know what I'm saying, where these children, you give them these pets and then, they rely on these pets for this emotional support because they can't rely on themselves. And then they go into adulthood and they still can't relate to the adult world, and they relate, still from a child's level of understanding into dealing not only with themselves but within society. So they get aid from animals and other helpers because their parents are careless. This is in fairy tales again. Because their parents are careless, clueless, or absent. Let me go back to the beginning sentence. Think of how many fairy tales feature abandoned children who must find aid from animals and others or other helpers because their parents are careless, clueless, or absent. In some stories, the parent character is actually malevolent, and the children must take their survival into their own hands. Remember, malevolent. And I can't remember the exact fairy tale because I'm not a big fairy tale expert. But for anyone that understands these fairy tales, especially through the Disney stories, malevolent should be a word that you understand. And we're not going to go into the definition of malevolent. You know what I'm saying? Look it up. I could do it right now, but we're going to move past that. These stories have been popular for centuries because they touch a common chord: how children must fend for themselves after their parents have neglected or abandoned them. Apparently, immature parents have been a problem since antiquity. I was saying that from the beginning or the intro of the program. This isn't brand new. Like, this has been going on forever. And that's because of the way humans operate in the percentage of a whole. And this theme of emotional neglect by self-preoccupied parents can still be found in the most compelling stories of our popular culture. Follow a lot of the Disney stories, you know what I'm saying? And anyone that's aware of them, and you don't have to go and watch them right now, you know what I'm saying? But if you just so happen to randomly watch these things, especially you parents, any parents with young children, and you're watching these animated stories, like really focus on the theme and the dynamic of how the story starts to unfold within a sense of having a trusted, authoritative person in the beginning of the story in order for there to, because if there was, then the fairy tale wouldn't kind of fold into how it folds. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's keep moving forward. Knowing about differences in emotional maturity gives you a way of understanding why you can feel so emotionally lonely in spite of other people's claims of love and kinship. Among psychotherapists, it's long been known that emotionally disengaging from toxic parents is the way to restore peace and self-sufficiency. We do it by understanding what we are dealing with. These parents basically lack emotional maturity. Once you understand their traits, you'll be able to judge for yourself what level of relationship might be possible or impossible with your parent. Knowing this allows us to return to ourselves, right? The power of now. Understanding what is, and then being able to move forward, being complete into knowing what is. Living life from our own deeper nature instead of focusing on parents who refuse to change. Living by the past, they refuse to change, and you still hold on to them, thinking that in the future, somehow they'll be different. But you're not understanding what's happening now. But what you know is that they're still operating from a way of being before. And that before is now. Your future is hoping that it's different from before, but now is now. Moving forward. Because we start running in circles with that. And we don't want to confuse you. Understanding their emotional immaturity frees us from emotional loneliness as we realize their neglect wasn't about us, but about them. No different than we as adults or parents, where we affect our kids through what we go through, you know what I'm saying? And it's not about them, like they're the problem. Oh, these kids, if they weren't so blah, 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 so on and so forth. But there's a lead that they follow. So there's something still incomplete with you. And because you are so insecure and incomplete within yourself, then you're angry unknowingly that this is passing on to your children because of your immature way of understanding and dealing with your feelings. When we see why they can't be different, we can finally be free of our frustration with them. And that's the parents. You know what I'm saying? As far as us being damaged and passing that on, we have to recognize why we're damaged, knowing why we're damaged, understanding how it happened, knowing the control or the lack of control into that being. And now that we know, we could disconnect that cycle that doesn't complement our higher connection to our peacefulness, keeping our mental health. You'll find out why one or both of your parents couldn't give you the kind of interactions that could have nourished you emotionally or nourished you emotionally. Many of your parents' puzzling behaviors will start to make sense when you see them in the light of emotional immaturity. You'll also gain some insight into possible reasons why your parents' emotional development stopped early. You'll see how people lose touch with their true selves in order to take on a family role, and how they build up subconscious fantasies about how other people should act in order to heal them from past neglect. You'll learn about the two very different types of children likely to emerge from emotionally immature parenting: internalizers and externalizers. Internalizers are highly perceptive and sensitive with strong instincts to engage and connect with other people. You'll see whether this personality type fits you, especially the traits of tending to feel apologetic for needing help, doing most of the emotional work in relationships, and thinking about what other people want first. By using the concept of emotional maturation, to assess people's level of functioning, you'll begin to see their behavior in a more objective way and can observe the defining signs of immaturity as they occur. You'll learn what works and doesn't work with emotionally immature people and how to protect yourself from the emotional distress they can cause. All of this will help you gain new peace and new self-confidence. By focusing on your own self-development, you can get on the road to freedom from emotionally immature relationships. Because this is more than just your parents. This is people, man. Because your parents are people that dealt with levels of pain that caused them into a longer existence of high level immaturity. You'll be able to spot signs of emotional immaturity and understand why you've often felt alone. Not only in childhood, but in this world. Why you have felt alone. And you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not Tom Hanks in the movie Castaway talking to a volleyball. And we're going to start to get into that analogy because that's one that I use a lot. Because a lot of people say, like, you know, you don't understand. And it's like, you talk to enough people and there are so many people that are going through the same thing that you have either went through or going through now. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not some movie where some random thing would happen out of the norm to have you stranded without anyone to be able to not only understand, but help, correlate. It will finally make sense why your attempts at emotional intimacy have failed to create closer relationships with emotionally immature people. So when you're dealing with your current relationships and you wonder why, you know, you're both not getting along, you both so overreactive and so over emotional, and that is because you both operated on a low level of thinking when you decided to be attracted to one another, because it was all based on how you looked, you know what I'm saying, as opposed to, how you emotionally deal not only with yourself, but with others and with society. You'll learn to manage the overdeveloped empathy that may have held you emotionally hostage to manipulate non-reciprocal people. You'll be able to recognize people who are capable of genuine emotional intimacy and satisfying communication. And that's all we're going to cover for today. And again, the book is Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. How to Heal from Distant, Rejecting, or Self-Involved Parents. Lindsay C. Gibson is the author. So again, was your parent difficult, immature, or emotionally unavailable? If you grew up with an emotionally immature, unavailable, or selfish parent, you may have lingering feelings of anger, loneliness, betrayal, or abandonment. And you don't have to feel any of those things once you process forward. If you still feel those things, to the highest of a level, that is because you're still at the beginning, infancy stage of feelings and emotions. And you haven't processed through to an emotional state of understanding. You may recall your childhood as a time when your emotional needs were not met, when your feelings were dismissed, or when you took on adult levels of responsibility in an effort to compensate for your parents' behavior. These wounds can be healed and you can move forward in your life. It is going to be okay. Trust me. It's going to be okay. But rather than label these others, let's look at this from the perspective of ownership and in ourselves being immature in how we dealt with growing beyond the raising of our parents. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's an immaturity of how we relate to that now. No different than how they're still immature in how they relate to you. You know what I'm saying? But then you don't have a level of maturity and you're still operating off of an immature base. So then you have this clashing. And there doesn't have to be a clashing. There just has to be an understanding. At least one person has to be aware, because either it's step up or step off. You know what I'm saying? But we're going to cover more as we go along, and transparency is a big thing. My parents weren't there for me. I wasn't there for my daughter for at least 5 years. You know what I'm saying? And I question myself as a parent every single day, whether I'm doing enough, whether I'm doing too much, you know what I'm saying, whether I need to relax a little bit, you know what I'm saying, but to be aware is something that is important for me, you know what I'm saying, and I don't even know if I'm doing well at it. I hope that I am. I'm open-minded and I could take criticism. I may not like to hear it at the time, but from a mature perspective, I have to understand what is being spoken to me and why. You know what I'm saying? And if I get deeper into understanding the level of who I'm communicating with and more probable how I play a role or factor into that processing, then I have to adjust myself into being a little different in order for there to be a connected understanding and awareness and a process in moving forward and not being stuck and trapped within a time of past and future. I mean, I question myself every single day, but again, we're going to look at this from the perspective of us. And once we understand our own personal immaturity, then it helps you understand others. Like me as a kid, there's no way I would have understood the complexities of relationships of being an adult, not only with your spouse, but with other people within society, with co-workers, with your bosses, with politics or people in authoritative positions, whatever it may be, you know what I'm saying? But mostly in how we deal with the relationship, and especially intimate relationship with others. You know what I'm saying? I'm an adult now and I'm like, man, I was so confused and immature and so angry and in an uncontrolled state of emotional understanding. There was no way that I was going to be a healthy lead for anyone because I was so connected into my hurt. You know what I'm saying? And I was bringing my hurt out into my living existence, no different than was being explained at the end of the chapter introduction. You know what I'm saying? Because me as an adult, then I'm living by my addictions in order to minimize my hurt from the past or things that are keeping me at a heightened level of anxiety that I'm not able to understand and relate to properly because of my high immaturity. No different than anyone else in common practice. But in this novel, again, we should look at this from within. And from looking within, then we're able to understand better what others have dealt with and chose not to educate forward from. And then we could decide the level of the connection, or if there needs to be a continuance, if there can be a continuance, or whether there needs to be some separation or disconnection into that relation, because it doesn't complement me being comfortable and having a comfortable exchange, not only in communication, but understanding into what is because of what was. So anyway, we're going to save a lot of this as we move on. And I want to be clear and not too confusing and not stuck into trying to over process specific analogies. Like that's something I have been working on leading into this new segment of sharing. So on this note, we're going to say, I am your neighborhood Sensei Fouché, and I am strongly imploring for all of you to stay woke. They're going to tell you wokeness like that's a problem. But let's look up these definitions. So before we go, we're gonna look this up. Because certain people in positions of power tells you wokeness is bad. So let's break it down. Become alert, aware of, to emerge from a state of sleep. You know what I'm saying? To be liberated. And liberation means free. You know what I'm saying? But then they're going to say liberal and try to connect it to the Democratic Party, saying that the Democrats are liberals and we're conservatives. You know what I'm saying? And conservatism is restriction, and to be liberated is to be free. You know what I'm saying? To be woke is to be free. To be sleep is to be dormant. You know what I'm saying? So I'm strongly imploring for all of you to stay woke. It's not a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? Stupid is as stupid does. Ain't that what they said in Forrest Gump? So stay woke. I implore you strongly. But in the process, don't get all stressed out. You know what I'm saying? Information is vital. Information is key. But make sure you relax. Meditate at all times necessary. And be prepared. Be prepared to take those notes. Be smooth. 1.